Good morning and welcome to my channel. I'm starting a new series in which I'm going to have a sneaky look into people's gardens and having a look at what grows there and telling you what colours I would use to paint the subjects I'm looking at. The series is called Garden Colour Field Trip and I'm starting with my own garden because it actually looks really good at the moment. It's April, it's a beautiful sunny day and there's flowers everywhere. This is the border that we started in the middle of last year. I did a blog post about it. We did a whole weekend where we just worked on that border and we added some tulips and they're looking really good. Now I quite like the mixture of these three tulips. The pink one here, which is a sort of pale pink, and then there's this magenta one here, and then there's the Tulipa Burgundy, which is one of my favorite tulip ever. It's a lily tulip and I paint this one pretty much every year. I just can't get enough of it. Ooh, look, a dandelion. I grow dandelions as well because I've got a rabbit, and when you have a rabbit you just have to grow dandelions. That's my excuse anyway. And what's interesting about these three tulips is that I would actually use the same colour in three of them, but in different proportions. So the pale pink would be permanent rose mainly, and I like to use Daler-Rowney permanent rose because it's pinker than the other permanent roses from other brands. And a little bit of magenta, and for the magenta I like permanent red violet from Talens Rembrandt. And I would use more pink than magenta in that one. Then moving on to this one, the lily tulip, I would use permanent rose as well. And I would use permanent red violet as well, but there's more permanent red violet. And in this one I would also use probably Winsor blue red shade. Winsor blue red shade doesn't make quite as clean a purple as French Ultramarine, but then again it doesn't granulate, and I don't really want granulation on my tulip because I want them to look waxy and shiny. And in that burgundy I would also use some of my lovely Perylene violet. And I'm moving on to the darker one here. I would use a lot less pink, a lot more magenta, more blue and more Perylene violet as well. Now on this pink one I would still use permanent rose, but you can see it's a completely different pink when you look at it compared to, if I lift it, compared to the burgundy here. It's a different kind of pink. It's more going towards a salmon pink. So on that one I would use a little bit of lemon underneath the pink washes, just to shine through a little bit, to give that sort of little salmon hue to it. Now moving on to the north facing wall, hydrangeas are budding nicely. This is some seed heads left from the chicory last year. I'm leaving them quite late because although they don't look very pretty, the goldfinches absolutely love them. And there's a bit of carrier, there's the ornamental quince here. Now for that I would use Quinacridone red and Gamboge yellow to get that sort of smoked salmon kind of colour. And then behind there I've got my blue Clematis. I love that Clematis. It has a lot of texture. So that one would have French Ultramarine and permanent rose and just a very, very pale lemon in the center. Still on the north facing wall, you can see it's the end of the daffodils. And some have been chewed a little bit by snails, I think, as well. But regardless of that, they're coming to the end of the season. I don't treat anything in my garden, it's all organic, so even the snails and slugs, I don't try to get rid of them. I just tolerate them. Well, actually, I've even been known to rescue some snails from the pavement before they get crushed by some careless walker and just put them in my garden for them to be safe. I rescued one a couple of days ago. It was really pretty. It was on the car park at the swimming pool, and I was walking back to my car, and there was this really, really pretty snail in the middle of the road. One of these small black one with a yellow stripe. And I took him home. I put him in one of my tulip pots because he looked a bit poorly. I think he didn't like the smell. I wrapped him up in my towel after I left the swimming pool, and I think he didn't like the smell of chlorine or something. He looked a bit peaky. So I put him in one of my pots. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning I woke up thinking, it's like, putting bait for a blackbird. He had that target painting on its shell. So at 5 o'clock I got up and I went to rescue that poor snail, and he wasn't there anymore. I mean, there wasn't any crushed shell anywhere, so I think he just legged it. Well, he slimed it, and he's somewhere safe. No doubt we'll meet again. You can see I've got loads of euphorbia here, still on the north-facing wall. This grows like weeds, really, it just self-seeds. I remove buckets of them every year, but at this time of year they look quite nice. And for that I would probably use my sap green, which again is a Talens Rembrandt, Royal Talens Rembrandt sap green, permanent sap green, with some transparent yellow. It's got a sort of golden hue that you can find in there. I think that would do the trick, and a little bit of ultramarine as well, French ultramarine, to give a little bit of texture. Now for bluebells I would use permanent rose and French ultramarine again. That's the nicest purple in the end. And that's it for today. We'll do the south-facing wall another time, and I will leave the last words to the birds and the blossom, for which I would use permanent rose, a touch of permanent alizarin crimson, and a little bit of quinacridone rose as well, which is sort of between pink and magenta. I'll see you later in another video. Take care. Bye.